YouTube, how the heck you doing? This is Corey here with Watcher Realms. Now, this isn't the standard because the game isn't playing, but we go ahead and do this pretty much every single season. What are the best defensive units for Guild v Guild? Now, I am going ahead and taking this from the perspective of I'm in a top 2 guild, so I've seen a lot of things over the course of this season, and we're pretty much at like the halfway point now. So I think I have a good idea as to what is working and what is not working, both for the towers and the keeps. So honestly, just kind of bear with me. This is a big list because naturally, right, they keep expanding the hero pool, which is good, but that also means that we have some units that are really good, that are trending downwards, just bang on average, and sometimes the lures don't go ahead and help out with going ahead and making those units strong. So let's just kind of go through the overall order of this. I am just going to go probably from alphabetical down. It just makes the most sense. Now, the first unit is going to be Abomination. Abomination is going to be in the average category. Right now, you don't really see Abomination because one of the main things that he needs is obviously Torador, and then secondly, you need to kind of just wait out the ability for him to go ahead and have his ult proc twice, which will go ahead and make it a permanent ultimate, so he's constantly going ahead and dealing damage, which is a little bit of a hindrance, especially because nowadays with these new BP affiliations and things like this, it's very easy to take out the Torador. You don't even really worry about swarming these teams anymore. So Abomination, average tier. Admiral Claw is in the don't bother. He is going to go ahead and pull units into your team, especially if it's like bombing runs. That's the last thing you want. You don't want to just go ahead and pull bombs into your team, explode everything, and then you just auto lose. So that's one of his main things. Also, he doesn't have the ability to pull dogs and prevent them from going into the crystal, so that's another kind of YouTube quick interruption. So Smile One is going ahead and offering some really good things. They are doing their normal top up event, which you have the ability to go ahead and just get free rewards whenever you purchase W Gold. So you're going to get some rare summoning crystals, some diamonds, some ancient summoning crystals. You even have the ability to get mythic extract at the very high end, but these are just free rewards whenever you go ahead and purchase W Gold. One of the really cool things is they're also having some packs again, right? So with these packs, you are going to go ahead and get some ancient summoning crystal options, some recasting hammer options, some mythic essence, and gleaming meteorite. You even have the ability to get some rare summoning crystals. Now, I personally always really like the ancient summoning discount bundle because I do think it's a really good pack because you're getting like a mix between the Leia pack and the Yovar pack. You're getting some ancient summoning crystals, 25 to be specific, and then you're also going ahead and getting some stamina potions, 16, which is huge for your just account progression overall. One of the other packs that I really like, I'm not gonna lie, is going to be the Gear Raid 1 pack bundle. Now this one goes ahead and allows you to get a legendary lord, which is going to be Demi. You can also get Artemis, Boreas, Beelzebub, Cerberus, Elwyn, Comet, Lasir, Magda, and Vienna. So all these units are typically really good for Gear Raid 1, and at the very high end, right, you get the chance to get Demi, which is absolutely good as a lord, especially right now, because she's going ahead and giving you some really good anti-heal, and just she's pretty good for damage overall as well. So if you are interested in going ahead and getting W Gold, go ahead and check out just the packs that they have because there's a lot of really good options, and please use the link in the description. Ding against him. He's just not that good, especially even as a damage dealer. Now, I'm always going to say that I is probably the ultimate utility unit. She is, well, for an epic at least, she is in the strong category. She has the ability to be placed with both the Arbiter teams. You can also see her with Piercer teams. She's just very consistent, and her ability to go ahead and put down the crystals very much stuns up units, freezes them, and allows your damage dealers to do a significant amount of damage over time. I would say that she is a very good candidate for super strong. However, because she's an epic and she's pretty much only used for her ice core crystals, can't really go ahead and put her in the super strong category, and it'll make much more sense as I go through this list. Now, Ajax is also going to be in the strong category. Now, Ajax used to be a really good unit, but I can't really necessarily put him in the super strong category. He has the ability to do damage. He has the ability to go ahead and prevent swarming attempts, but just in general, he's not really that dominant. And the main thing is you're going to see him most often in the towers, and right now there's a lot of strategies to go ahead and deal with Ajax in particular. Of course, sometimes it goes against you and he can deal some damage, but there's definitely a lot of opportunities to play around with his overall damage output. Laura is going to be in the average category. I mean, one of her things is she's always going to be invis unless she ults, and truth be told, she just doesn't do enough damage to be that considerable of a threat. Now, I am going to put I can't necessarily put her go next. She's going to be in God tier. Lady Alexandra is definitely God tier. There are some ways to go ahead and play around her overall damage output, but once she starts going ahead and getting those awakenings, especially like the A3, A5, she becomes a really massive problem. However, I can't just say that she is go next because she does require at least a Yovar or a Praetus to go ahead and activate her in terms of getting the most out of her. So while she is really, 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 really good, I don't think she's GG go next. But she might be on the cusp. Like she is kind of disgusting. Now Alistair, I'm gonna put Alistair in the don't bother category. Just it's not worth it. Same for Anai. Anai is a cool unit in concept, but she is not going to go ahead and be devastatingly strong, especially in Guild v Guild with her just being a single target mage that relies on burning. Anora. Now, Anora is going to be in the super strong category. Anora is going to be in your Nightmare comms, interestingly enough, right? You're going to see her in the Nightmare comms, you're going to see her in Esoteric comms, you're going to see her in Cultist comms. She's just a very, very consistent damage dealing mage, and she does have RNG that's involved, especially when she's A1, because she has the ability to basically root units, and that's a really valuable thing in Guild v Guild. If you have RNG, you have some ways to go ahead and secure a win when you otherwise shouldn't. So she is also just going to be in that super strong category. However, I will say it's really kind of mandatory that you have Ymrit to go alongside her, at least on your account. You don't need to have it in the team, but having Ymrit goes ahead and makes her a massive threat in general. Now, Araka is going to be in the strong category. She is a Lord, however, as it stands, she's not going to be that valuable as a unit in particular. As a Lord, she's great, but she's only going to be used just to be another unit on the actual ground tiles, but she's just not that good, unfortunately. Ardea is always going to be in that super strong category. She is very meta in a lot of teams right now, just because she has really long range, and truth be told, she is mainly used for the towers, not necessarily the keeps. But because of her long range and her ability to really effectively deal with like Chaotic Shaman and the Rare Archers, just because Rare Archers have very low defense, she is viable. And obviously, any high damage dealing unit that's on the ground is going to be very preferred. You usually go ahead and see her paired with like an Anora or another unit that is able to really deal with anti-air, Hatsid for example, as the main components to go ahead and develop a team with Ardea. So that's one thing. Now, Ardeth, he used to be good, but he is now in the don't bother category, so it's not even worth discussing. Same for Ares, and then also Ares, the other two, right? I would say Ares, the Watcher, he is going to be kind of strong. He deals a decent amount of damage, especially to anti-air units. However, just in general, you kind of need him to be in an esoteric faction team, and you have a lot of really, really good alternatives. You could run a Cyrus with an Ardea, and then you just be fine. You could run Cyrus with Ymrit, you're just fine. As it stands, there are some really good alternatives to Ares that just outshine him, and so he is strong. He's just not godlike, unfortunately. Now, arrogance has significantly fallen off in terms of strength and just in general in the game, so he is going to be in the strong category. It's really easy to go ahead and bait around his ultimates and just kind of play around with when he's going to deal the most amount of damage, and then unfortunately you can go ahead and swarm him really easily whenever he's in a Nightmare team, just because there's not a significant amount of CC that's associated with arrogance. He's mainly known for damage, and if you go ahead and put a unit on top of him, he's no longer doing the AoE hits, he's doing single target hits, and that makes it even easier to go ahead and swarm. So that's one of the main negatives. Artemis is going to be in that don't bother category. Same for Aspen. Astaro, I can't say where he's going to be. I have not been able to test him in some high level Guild v Guild yet, so I'm just going to put him in the strong for now. But I mean, let's give it some time and see how good he is. Out of the tacticians, I feel like he and Morden are going to be kind of like around average. Then Aelin is also going to be in the average category. I mean, she obviously goes ahead and gives some really good healing, but right now for Guild v Guild, you need death prevention mechanics for a unit to truly be good. So that's where we stand. Azur, just don't bother. Baron is also just don't bother. He is cool because he has a invulnerable mechanic, but he's just not that great in terms of being a tank, especially because he's an epic unit, and so that by large, right, results in lower base stats. So it's easy just to go ahead and take him out. Now, Beatrix, I actually saw a guild use Beatrix yesterday. I don't know why. She's not that good. But she's in the strong category. She deals damage. Her main thing is if she gets the ability to ramp up and have her dream meters continuously give her stacks by killing units, then yeah, she's going to deal some damage. But once you start getting into like the high BPs at like at least where I am at in the game, it doesn't matter if you have a Beatrix. It just doesn't matter. In like normal like Plat 3 and things like this, the like low Overlord, sure, of course, she might have some relevance. That's why she's going to be in the strong category. But you kind of need her to at least be A1 or A3. I think it's like A3, where she gets like additional Dream Meter stacks and things like this. So you need her to be A3 for her to really be a damage threat. And even then, there's a lot of other threats, Honora, that outshine her, at least in her own faction, mind you, right? Now, Beelzebub. Beelzebub is going to be in super strong. Now, Beelzebub is probably the number one CC unit, at least right now in the game, in terms of just hard CC because of his pull, and he has incredibly massive range. So he can go ahead and break the pathing for units, and then also he gives inspiration, which is really nice in general. And obviously, if you're running a cultist team, he will go ahead and give you damage mitigation. I think it's like 10% or 20%, where your allies take like less damage if they're a cultist. So that's one of the things to look out for. So just in general, because of his range and his pull, he has a lot of utility in a lot of teams and allows you to do a significant amount of comps that you otherwise wouldn't have been able to go ahead and make. Boreas is going to be in the super strong category as well. Now, Boreas is interesting because he is mainly just using esoteric comps, and he has the ability to do a significant amount of damage, especially when he's like A3 and above. But he's basically one of the main contributors as to why esoteric comps are working, at least as of right now. So, super strong. Brokir. I'm always going to put, I don't care, but I don't care. Brokir is always going to be in God tier. He is, in my opinion, the best guild v guild tank pound for pound. It doesn't matter what teams you're running or what guild you're against, you'll probably see a Brokir in one of the two teams. And if not, you're probably seeing a Nightmare team and a Esoteric team, and they're probably down already, especially if it's a Nightmare team, if we're being honest. So Brokir is basically the universal tank. I always put him in God tier. Brunner, I don't know. Kalista, bad. Calypso is also bad. And these two are really bad just because Kalista is nice because maybe average. Kalista is average because she has the knockback. Calypso is just bad because she needs way too long to ramp up and actually deal damage, and her damage is not anything significant. Carnelian is obviously going to be the best guild v guild healer in the game. It is bar none, no discussion. She is just the best. Especially with the Chaotic Shaman, Carnelian allows you to go ahead and basically perma-tank the burn from the Shaman. However, there are some ways to play around it, but just in general, she has the ability to basically infinitely keep your tanks alive and just your units alive in general, especially whenever she's placed well and has the proper build. So she's obviously just always going to be in God tier as long as she has revive mechanics, which she will always have, and unless there's never a demon soldier that prevents those mechanics from occurring, she's always going to be the best. Karosa, just don't even bother. Don't bother Karosa. Cassiel. Now, Cassiel is interesting. He is going to be strong. He does have some damage, but just in general, I don't think he's that viable. If we're being honest, he prevents, or he shares damage with the tank, which is nice. He deals a decent amount of damage, but there's just something about him where it just feels like it's missing something. Cerberus is don't bother. Why would you use a unit that gradually reduces their own HP? Go ahead and not use him, right? There's a lot of better things you could do than use a Cerberus, especially because if you like just drop mages, bam, one shot Cerberus, that's a unit off the map just right there. It's super simple. Constance right now is in the average category. She isn't really that good because you're going to have to use her as a buffer. And right now, with how Guild v Guild is, you don't need a buffer. You need survivability and damage, right? And you can't rely on using a unit to go ahead and give you damage and some like poor utility in the sense of heals. You just need have the damage or you have the utility. That's just where we are right now. Scratch, obviously don't bother. Cyrus is also always going to be in the god tier. He enables the esoteric comps. Now Cyrus probably right now is a top 2. I would say he's like the top 2 lord right now for Guild v Guild. It's going to be Praetus, and then obviously it's going to be Cyrus. Enables esoteric comps, a really tanky unit in general. What more can be said, right? Dahlia is going to be average. I wouldn't waste time. The Somi is going to be strong. Demi is going to be in super strong. Diao Chan, I saw a guild use Diao Chan. I don't know why. I don't know why. In Guild v Guild, she's going to constantly swap. And so she doesn't give you that great of heals. And she gives you inspiration for all your units, but it doesn't matter if you give inspiration if all your units are dead. So, average. Same for Dolores. Durza, same average. Edith is going to be Edith is going to be average. Edith goes ahead and gives you knockbacks, but she's a Watcher, and right now Watchers in general as a faction are just really weak, so it's not that viable. Elder is going to be average. Northerner comps are just not there right now, unfortunately. They don't really exist, and they haven't existed in Guild v Guild for like 5 seasons, so that's just where we are. Elwyn is also going to be in the average tier. Now, Elwyn could be great. If Elwyn had the ability to drop her wood elves in Guild v Guild, then yeah, there'd definitely be some viability in that. However, as it stands right now, she just doesn't provide that, and so we can't really count on her being that reliable as a source of damage. So yeah, that's one of the main things here. She just doesn't do enough. Elijah is average. Eunomia is strong. He gives bounce heals, which is amazing. Same for Ezrein. Ezrein is really good as a healer as well, especially when you go ahead and put him with the esoteric comps. However, he doesn't have a revive mechanic. He has a pseudo revive mechanic, but it's really easy to go ahead and exploit, so that's why he's going to be placed in the category that he's placed in. Falcia is just don't bother. I'm not going to waste my time with Falcia. Just don't do it. Fenris, same thing. He is basically like a better version of Maul, and he does go ahead and provide a knockback, which is nice, but he doesn't provide a significant amount of damage. And also because he is just exclusively a Northerner, it's not really going to be that viable to go ahead and slot him into a team, at least as of right now, for a high-level Guild v Guild composition. Now, when we go to Fercy is also going to be in that average category. Anytime, well, no. I would say she is here and strong, but like she's borderline, right? She has a really good inspiration. She has a really good range, which is the only 2 things that are really working for her in this particular case. And she goes ahead and gives damage reduction for AoE. So, I mean, yes, it's nice. But what about Chaotic Shaman, right? And that's kind of like where we stand, at least until the meta changes, which Moonton has addressed that they are going to go ahead and nerf the Chaotic Shaman. But yeah, right? She just doesn't deal with it well enough. And then naturally, once we go ahead and get rid of the Chaotic Shaman, we already have higher BP units. We already have higher demon soldiers in general, right? So yeah, every Toradora is going to die, unfortunately. Gon is going to be in that super strong category, in my opinion. I think he is, because he does have the ability to enable those chaotic teams, and he is a little bit resistant to Chaotic Shaman and just rushing him down because of his ultimate. However, once his ultimate is gone, there are a couple of ways to go ahead and exploit that and force trigger it. He's really vulnerable, right? So his main benefit is just being a lord for the chaotic faction. So you get to buff your Sargak, you get to have your Carnelian, and you kind of get to have your Ymrit, and you just go to town. But it's a little bit of a tricky game. You really need a strong Sargak to go ahead and have your chaotic teams work. Now, Giselle, I don't think I've ever seen her be used. Glacius is average. He is going to provide you with decent CC. I'm going to put Greed in the strong category. Pretty good CC. He is probably the most frustrating, in my opinion, CC unit to go against, just because I feel like he always has slows up. I mean, he's kind of like similar to I in a sense, but like he has less coverage. But it almost feels more oppressive. I will say, like, I and Greed are like tied in terms of like most frustrating to go against. Gwendolyn, I don't think I've ever seen Gwendolyn be used. Hars, no. Hotsit. Now, Hotsit's in an interesting situation because I do think she's in the strong category, but my main thing with Hotsit is she's only used for nightmare comps, and then truth be told, she's pretty easy to exploit. However, she is kind of like the necessary evil. Like you have to have Hotsit in a nightmare comp for it to work. Otherwise, people just fly over. But it almost feels like she doesn't do enough unless she's like by far in a large, like really stacked. Helga is going to be average. Hex is average. You can just play around his hits way too easily. Hollow is going to be average. Great unit for PvE, but not great for Gil. Here's the thing. Ingrid is strong. Ingrid has fallen off a cliff in terms of strength. Now, Ingrid is nice because obviously she does damage, but the maps are not really conducive to her being the apex predator that she has been for a really, really long time in the game. And so I think there's a very fair justification that there are many units that are better than her because she's a great lord, but you're going to use her faction allies in other comps. Wukong, you're going to use in a Nightmare team. Kigiri, not really relevant, at least for Guild right now. Use her paired with a Praetus. I mean, you have some other options that are you got some options, specifically the unit that just came out, that is going to outshine her in her particular role, right? And also, you can just play around her Overlord status or state a little bit easily nowadays because everyone's so used to her. Init is going to be in the average category. Yovar is going to be in the super strong category because Yovar goes ahead and allows for a multitude of comps. You get Piercer comps with Lady Alexandra, which is obviously a god tier unit, and then pairing with Sargak, Brokir, and then you're pretty much ready to go. So Yovar is going to be in the super strong category. It's just hard to justify not putting him there. Jira is going to be average. I mean, Jira used to be like the second coming of like Jesus Christ, and then she kind of fell off with how one tile range is. And then we have Cade. Cade is going to be in the don't bother. I think it's just really easy to just play around him and his ultimate timings, and then you just kind of swarm him afterwards, and then you just win the game, right? Kai is going to be in the don't bother. Comet is average. Great damage dealer for AoE, but I mean, not crazy. Kigiri is going to be strong. He's easy to play around, and also he needs to be A3 or A5, which is a very high investment in general for a unit to be guild reliable, and that doesn't mean he excels. It's just reliable. So, yeah. You got better options than Kigiri for most teams. And then Kineza, don't bother. Kriya, I'm going to put Kriya in the average category. She has some use for cultist teams, but, I mean, you need her to just be built like a nuke. And even then, you can kind of play around it. Frodor, horrible. Lasir, bad. Leia is going to be strong. However, actually, no, she's average. Her range is the main thing that kind of hurts her. And just watches in general are just not that crazy. Lily is in the super strong category. She is the second best Guild healer in the game as of right now. She does have a revive mechanic, which is relatively consistent. But I mean, you burn, right? You go ahead and use Chaotic Shaman or do a specific strategy. You can blow up the tank, trigger her ultimate, and then just take out the tank right after, right? So Carnelian is obviously going to be the god tier, while Lily is basically the second coming in terms of strength. Livian, don't bother. Lubu is, I'm going to put Lubu in strong. However, he's like dirty in the sense of like, he can work, but you'd really rather have an Ardea. Lucius is going to be in the average, or no, Lucius is in the don't bother. Reason being is because you need him to go ahead and basically trigger his demon stance, and you can't rely on a unit triggering demon stance for it to be relevant. Lust is also going to be in that don't bother category. She deals damage, but truth be told, it's just not enough. And then we have Lynx. Lynx is don't bother. Lyra, don't bother. Magda is strong. Magda gives you really good CC, and she is going to be kind of bent in terms of like the faction that you'll see her in. But her main goal is like you pull the handle and whenever like something bad's happening, Magda's the unit for that. She's going to knock the units back, have your damage dealers get an additional chance to kind of take out whatever is there. That's where she kind of fits in. Magnus, horrible. Malric, horrible. Never seen him. Mari's average. You could just play around her a little bit too much. And there are other units now, like Beelzebub, that kind of do her job and better. Because he also provides slows. Maw is going to be in the average category. Maw, specifically, don't ever use him. I saw a guild use Moradin recently. And Moradin is troll. He's not troll, but like it's easy to play around him, and I don't feel like he deals enough right now in the current format to justify being a strong unit. It's unfortunate. It's just where he is right now. There are other units that outpace him in terms of what they do for your team. Morrigan, I like Morrigan. She does a decent amount of damage. She enables the cultist team, so she is going to be strong. But the main thing that makes the cultist team crazy is obviously going to be the Anora that's within it. So Micah, don't bother. Nastia is also going to be strong. However, if you're going to run a Nastia, you're going to also have to run a Cyrus or a really good tank. And usually it's going to be Cyrus, and you're really banking on just blowing up the tanks and then dealing with the rest of the units. So she is good, but you would rather have a Cyrus if we're being honest. Then we have Nocturne. Nocturnes, and they don't bother. Numera is going to be in the strong category, right? Numera and Nastia are kind of like a package deal. You have to use both, and even then, you need a Boreas. Like, you just need a Boreas or an Anora to really get you over the line. Nyx is going to be in the average category. Nyx is great for like beginners getting into Gilvy Guild because she's going to deal a significant amount of damage over time, like with her ultimates. However, she needs to be like A5. And even then, if it's A5, you're usually going to see people just go ahead and tank stack and then just deal with the rest of the threat. Because Piercers, well, tank stack with healer, dogs, GG. You lose, right? Because you're going to have to run a Yovar or a Naraka. You're going to have to run a Silas. And then even then, you can just bait her ultimate, don't feed her the rage regen, and then you can just kind of deal with the rest of the team really effectively. Right? Olog is going to be in the average category. He doesn't have a self-revive, which is the main thing. Aurum, bad. Pelagios, ooh. He hovers in the super strong, at least right now. He has CC. He can be really frustrating because he has RNG involved, and that's one of the main things when you get to like really high Gilvy Guild. RNG is like your best friend. So he is in the strong category, but man, you know, he might have a justification. I'll put him here in the super strong category, but it's like it's tricky because he needs awakenings to be crazy. He really does. Phineas is going to be average. He is single target, so that's his main thing. Braidus is back. He is back. He is definitely in the god tier, especially because Chaotic Shaman exist. They are weak to Arbiters. So you know what happens when you get a Praetus, you get a Lady Alexandra, and maybe you get a Pelagios, you get a god comp. For sure. So that's kind of like where we stand. Praetus is definitely god tier. He deals damage. He's just back. Then we have Razak. Razak's average. Reeve is also going to be in that super strong category. He's kind of like the best friend of your tank. Like if you have a broke here, like Reeve is your best friend because he's going to go and stun every single unit. Your units are going to go take out the units that are touching Reeve or even touching your broke here, and then they're going to go back to the broke here, get frozen by RNG, and then your team takes care of it, right? So that's kind of where Reeve stands. Regulus is going to be in that average category. He has a revive mechanic, but there's just something that feels off with Regulus nowadays. Rox is going to be in the don't bother. Rygar right now is average, but we got to see how he looks after the buffs. Sadie is going to be average. Salazar is don't bother. Sargak is super strong. Sargak is he's a menace. Put him in a Piercer comp with A3 Sargak, or put him in a chaotic team with A3 Sargak, you will watch the Flyers drop. He's disgusting. He needs awakenings. He needs the A3. He just does. But once you get that A3, he's a problem. Celine, I don't think I'll ever see a Celine in a Guild v Guild match, and there's good reason. Seraphina, I'm also going to put in the don't bother. I have never seen her. She will never be used. Setrum, don't bother. It's so easy to go play around with his ultimate, and his ultimate doesn't deal enough damage against level 7 tanks, or just tanks in general nowadays, especially with like what BP looks like now, to really be a threat. Shamir, don't bother. Silas is going to be like average. I feel like the reason why I have to put him in average is because he needs to be a piercer with a Yofar, and he needs good awakenings, and even then, you can kind of play around him a bit with his ult timings. And if you can do that, then you win. Silas isn't what makes piercer comps good. In my opinion, it's the Sargak. The Sargak is what makes the piercer comps good, and Silas kind of deals with the tanks for the Sargak, so that the Sargak can go ahead and get the bonuses whenever units are lower than like 50% HP, and then just instant nuke them, right? So that's where we stand. Sulkadins is going to be average. Infernal units just aren't that good right now. Talon is going to be strong. She's a really good off tank. She kind of fits the same bubble that Reeve does. It's just that Talon is a fighter technically as well, and so a little bit tricky, right? I just like Reeve more. Go ahead, put Bastion Ring on him, have him tank forever, CC every single unit until they're dead. It's just nicer. The Lula, average. Thalin, average. He goes ahead and ults, nukes the things, but he doesn't really have enough range to be a consistent threat. He has to have the units be kind of close for him to be a major threat. Theowin, average. I mean, what can I say? He's just average. Corridor's tricky, because I want to put him God tier, but my heart says super strong. Reason being is because Nightmare comps are always going to be your safe team, and you have to use a lot of investment on Nightmare comps. You need to use a Wukong, you need to use a Carnelian, you need to use a Hotsit, you need to use a Ymrit or an Ardea, and you really want the Ymrit. You really want the Ymrit for it to work, and then on top of it, you need high BP. And if you don't have those things, the team does not work. So he is super strong. He is Mr. Consistent. And I think I'm just going to leave him there. He is Mr. Consistent. Rusk, don't use him. Twin Fiend, don't use him. Twyla, don't use him. Uridan, if this were for BP, it would be GG go next. Uridan is the king for BP. But we're not looking at BP. So if we're looking for actual like defense, right? Uridan's going to be average. Valara. Oh, brother, Valara. Oh, brother. This is the new entry to the GG Go Next. I haven't even seen her in Guild v Guild. I have tested her on the test server. I have seen what she can do in AoE Arena. She is a menace. She is going to make me pull my hair out whenever I am going against it in top 2 against Mad. So, yeah. That's the new entry to GG Go Next. Valdron is going to be super strong. Valeria is average. Valkyra is average. Venoma sucks. I'm sorry. I have her A6 at this point. She's horrible. Fierna average. Volca average. Born. I'm sorry. A lot of these units at the end are just like not that good. Vortex. Don't bother. Wukong is super strong, and he will always be super strong, but he needs to be A5. If Wukong is not A5, he is not usable. You would just get tank stacked, swarmed, and you lose. So he needs to be A5. He needs to be, at least right now, with Torador in a Nightmare faction. Zarus, he's average. He's strong at the beginning, and then he really falls off a cliff. It's just not worth it. Xena is average. Go ahead and bait out multiple of her ultimates, and it's GG, right? Does no damage after that point. Ymrit is going to be in God tier. Ymrit will always, at least for now, be God tier because he can be used in any faction, and he provides you with some really good utility because of his freeze. And then obviously he buffs Anora, and so that's kind of like where we stand. Also, he has 2 lives in a sense because once he goes to Egret, he can still be revived and then cause havoc afterwards. So that's where we stand. Ymrit is God tier. Yuri is going to be strong. You have to use her with Nightmare teams, in my opinion, as a replacement for Hatsut. But yeah, Zealous, don't bother, and Zilla2 is don't bother. Now, as of right now, this is what I strongly believe is the meta and how the meta is looking right now based off of being in top 2, and just what I've seen against the guilds that we've gone against, and then also just what I project to be in the future because we have Valara here now. So, yeah, see ya.